Good day, ladies and gentlemen. We have some Q&A today about the SSPX. Do they just make it up as they go along? We have questions about tithing, why consuming the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ present in the Most Holy Eucharist does not count as cannibalism. This is an ancient one, but still going around. And if you're wondering, this hat is from Algonquin Park, which I don't know if it is one of the wonders of the world officially, but it should be. And if you ever get a chance, you should visit. All right, enough of that. Let's get to it. Just last weekend, I was away with a buddy, as a group of buddies, up in Algonquin Park for his 40th birthday. We were in a cottage up there. Absolutely breathtaking scenery. I like to take my family up there. If you ever get a chance to go, it's a few-hour drive from the border, coming in from kind of the New York area. You can come from Buffalo, or you can come from Sarnia. It's going to be like 7 hours from there. But trust me, it is astounding. It is like Canadiana. Looks like a postcard. If you ever get a chance to go, I'm going to say around Canadian Thanksgiving, which I don't know if that's Memorial Day or Columbus Day. It's one of those days in October you have as a holiday, early October. Make the trip, my American friends. It's like psychedelic, the colors of the trees when they change. It's just breathtaking, and it's just so cool. Anyway, I love it. That has nothing to do with what we're going to talk about, but I'm excited about it. I have the hat on today. Truth be told, it's because I need a haircut and haven't had time to get one. Okay, so the first question that we have here, this is a doozy, and I'm sorry to hear this one. I'm going to do my best to answer it. It says, my wife has been told by a Novus Ordo priest or other SSPX haters that the prior at our SSPX chapel gets to, quote-unquote, make it up, whatever gospel reading he wants because we are using the current NO missal cycles. This is the evil that our family is facing, and it's destroying us as a family. She, I guess he's talking about his wife, doesn't understand why I don't want to be Catholic anymore. Any suggestion on ways to try to get her to understand, so to speak? Okay, so the first thing, a Novus Ordo priest or SSPX haters say that the prior gets to make up whatever gospel reading he wants because we're currently using the Novus Ordo missal cycles. I don't really know what that means. I'm going to guess. I imagine that these SSPX haters, as you call them, don't really know how it works. In the church, we have the traditional 1962 calendar, which is still legitimate. It's legitimate legally in the sense that it's officially permitted. It's legitimate because the new one is a gong show, so it's morally legitimate. But we also have the new calendar, which is about 80% the same, but there are some significant changes. So no. Traditional priests in general, whether they're saying the Mass as a priest of the SSPX or they're just like a diocesan priest following the 1962 calendar, they don't make anything up. That's kind of the point. That's kind of that's an ironic part of this question, is that someone would accuse an SSPX priest or any priest who sticks to the traditional Mass, for that matter, of making anything up. That's kind of the point, is that they don't make anything up, which is the opposite of the Novus Ordo, where it's basically cut from whole cloth, and the priests have what Dr. Kwasniewski calls optionitis, meaning they have this tendency to use all the options they want to make it look how they want. Funny story, as I was narrating one of Dr. K's books, I think I've only narrated one of his books. I've read many of them, but I was narrating Good Music, Sacred Music, and Silence. That's what it was. Amazing book. You can listen to it on audiobook, wherever audiobooks are available, and also you can buy it. It's a great book from Tan. And he writes so much Latin in his books. And when you have a Latin or foreign word, you put it in highlights, right? Italics. So you know it's a foreign word, like you do with the title of a book, kind of thing. Also, if you make up a word and it's not real, you can put that either in quotations or you can put it in italics to sort of set it apart that this isn't a regular word and there's a reason why you're using it. So he put the word optionitis, like tendinitis or whatever. And I was reading all these Latin words in his work, and one of the reasons I was hired was to pronounce things properly. That was explicitly why I was hired for that particular book, because there were tons of names of composers and things like that in different languages, and I can pronounce things that are foreign very well. And I said optionitis, because I was like, in my mind, I thought it was a Latin word. No, it was optionitis, and I had to reread that part. Anyway, so I don't understand this whole making up thing. Makes no sense. Your mention here about this hurting your family, I'm really sorry about that. And I do want to just maybe give some practical advice. I have seen people deal with the problems of the new springtime and its effects on the family once one of the family members discovers the tradition. I've seen this in both ways. I saw it with a woman I knew who would attend Mass without her husband on Sundays, and he would attend the Novus Ordo parish, and she would attend the traditional parish, and they just couldn't get on the same page. You know, St. Paul talks about this division in the family when he talks about wives, what they're supposed to do when their husbands aren't Christian, and they're never supposed to give up their Christian faith, but they're still supposed to submit to their husbands in all things but sin, as the natural order of things. So you being the husband here, you're not in the position where your wife has this sort of authority to tell you not to go there. But I would just do everything in your power to try to have some grace and understanding if that's what's happening. The message isn't completely clear, so maybe I'm misunderstanding, but this advice I think is good for everybody. You know, when we had discovered Catholic tradition, I was doing the reading and the researching and so forth, and my wife had no reasons to despise or to want to refuse to go to Catholic tradition. But she wasn't where I was at the time that I was where I was. And funny enough, there was a line in Rome Sweet Home by Dr. Scott Hahn. And I remember him relating, and if you've ever read that book, it's a great book on converting to the faith. I haven't read it in a long time. I was Novus Ordo when I read it. I don't know if it's a Novus Ordo-y kind of book. I think, honestly, it was just kind of a good book about Protestants becoming Catholic. And anyway, but it's been years since I read it, so if there's any cringy Novus Ordo-y things in there, well, you know, we all change, and Scott Hahn seems to be a fan of tradition now, as far as I can tell, so who knows. But in any event, at one point, he talks about the back and forth he's having with his wife, and they're having these constant arguments because his wife was really educated in Protestant theology. She was like a master's or whatever in it, and he said at one point, I think it was the priest who said to him, you know, "You're not the Holy Ghost, so you should probably stop trying to convince your wife." And he thought, that's good advice. I'll ask the Holy Ghost to do it. Now, we don't believe in something like a quietism or something as Catholics where we have no kind of external actions or whatnot. But at the same time, we do have to have a little bit of grace and understanding with our spouses because we're not necessarily always on the same page. In my case, you know, I said to my wife, and this was back when I was in the Novus Ordo, I said, listen, you know, let's try to go to this traditional Mass, and here's what the SSPX is, and here's what they're saying, and here's what I think. And it was kind of baby steps. Like, it wasn't all at once. It wasn't like, you know, tomorrow we go to traditional Mass and we're never stepping foot in the Novus Ordo ever again. Obviously, I don't go to the Novus Ordo. I don't recommend it. But we are in this crazy crisis in the church in this mysterious time where we have basically two religions operating, and it's very hard to understand, and people are kind of stuck in the crosshairs. And so doing our best to try to have a little bit of grace and compromise, not on the principles that are necessary, but let's say compromise like, you know, hey, if there's a traditional Mass available at 7:30 and you go to that one early in the morning and your wife doesn't want to go, it's like you can drive her to the Novus Ordo and just sort of be there and don't go receive communion, if you know, that sort of thing, because you've already gone to Mass, but you're kind of supporting her. There are things like that, if that makes sense. And I think a little bit of understanding will help go a long way. Now, if it's something where she just needs to know and needs some ammunition, I would recommend my book on the SSPX, not because I'm trying to sell you a book, but just because there aren't any other books that are like mine and that are that succinct and written for this kind of situation. That's why I wrote it. So if you'd like, you can check that out. It's kennedyhall.ca/books. All my books are linked there. It's just like, a link, and it goes to the Amazon page with everything. And I hope that helps. As far as You mentioned here trying to get her reprogrammed, quote unquote. I know you mean that tongue in cheek. Well, here's the thing. Lent is coming up, and I would say, listen, I just want to challenge you, my dear sweet wife, who I love dearly, and thank you for all you've done for me. Would you attend with me only the traditional Mass throughout Lent? There's like 6 Sundays, I think. And see what happens. People get reprogrammed or recalibrated just by that. So I hope that helps. You can continue asking questions in the question area. For those who are listening on the free preview, this is a question and answer, and people get to ask direct questions. I would love to answer all your questions. There are a billion of them, and I can't. This is why it takes me like a month to respond to some emails, and I'm so sorry about that for people that email me, but I just can't. So this is a way of whittling it down, and if you're a paid subscriber, then I'm going to get to it because I can prioritize that because I've got to do only so many things in a day, and we got to keep the lights on, and that's just the way life works. So there you go. You can ask questions. So Mr. So-and-so, your name is anonymous in there, and that's fine. But for the person who asked this question, just ask me more if you have any more questions. You can also direct message me as a paid subscriber, and I can do my best to answer, and I will do my best in a timely fashion, and I hope that's helpful. Any follow-ups, please let me know. Now, my friends, I do want to let you know about something that is happening in September, and it is a once-in-a-lifetime trip to the Holy Land. And I'm going to the Holy Land with a traditional Catholic priest on a traditional Catholic pilgrimage. The chaplain is yet to be selected. We're just waiting for some priests that we're asking if they can get permission from the superior, etc., etc., etc. It is a wonderful, amazing trip. As you can see on the screen, we're going to Jerusalem, Bethlehem, Nazareth, Mount Tabor, Cana, Sea of Galilee, Mount Carmel, Dead Sea, the Jordan River. We're going everywhere, and it is an amazing opportunity. And you can find the link for that. You can go to the link underneath, or you can go to, you see on the screen, kennedyhall.ca/holy-land. kennedyhall.ca/holy-land. If you just go to kennedyhall.ca, you can see on the screen there, just at my website is just a business card. It's just for a landing page. It's right there at the top. Boom, Holy Land. Link is there. And there you go. It's a great price. There's no such thing as an inexpensive trip to the Holy Land, but with the recent events that took place over the last couple of years in Israel and Palestine, everything is safe now, but the prices are quite good because they really want people to come back. So it's a really great deal as far as trips go. You're not going to find one like this that's as affordable. So, all right, next question. Okay, the next question from our questioners. Let me find it here. Next question is a question and a comment, and it says, just wanted to say I love all your content. Your podcasts are like graduate level theology courses. Well, thank you. I did pay him to say that. I love that they take a deep dive into the origins and backgrounds of important Catholic dogmas. It's super helpful for me as a cradle Catholic growing up in the 70s where the catechism just wasn't taught like it should have been. I always knew our faith was much deeper, so your courses are refreshing. I'm enjoying passing these treasures on to my family. Switching gears, he says, I have a few possible questions for your next Q&A video, and these are great. And I'm going to actually show you what he's talking about. When he talks about my courses, I think what he's referring to is if you go to my homepage, if you're listening to this on a podcast platform or whatever, if you go to my homepage, you can see all the stuff I'm doing. And if you scroll down, and this is on the browser, I find the browser to be the best. It's a little easier than the app, but anyway, if you go on the browser on the desktop, you can see I have these sections, and here's modern errors. So this is me just reading the encyclicals. I'm going to probably release like 30 of these or something over the next while, however long it takes. Then I have my Charismania. So it's the chapters of my book on the charismatic renewal, all available for paid members. I have the series I've done on modernism. It's not done. I'll get back to it at some point, but I got 6 episodes there going through Pascendi by Pope Pius X. I have the series on the kingship of Christ. They've uncrowned him. And we go through the book by Archbishop Lefebvre. They've uncrowned him in 14 different, basically, lectures. So I think that's what he's talking about. So if you want to have a deep dive, all that stuff is there. All right, we'll get back to the questioning. And the question, the first question this person has is, okay. My wife and I would like to give money, alms to the church, but for the past many years, there have been too many reports about improper fund use from the local diocese all the way up to the Vatican. And now the USAID information has just made this worse. We have given to the FSSP in the past, but feel like even some of that money will be siphoned off to Rome for nefarious activities. Question: do you know if the SSPX is financially separate from the Vatican? Would giving to local charities we know personally count as tithing? I am better with my apologetics, but I am having a hard time coming up with shorter rebuttals. Oh, that's a different question. Okay, so after that. Okay, I'm going to answer this, but before I do that, last thing is I want to say thank you to Real Estate for Life. Go to realestateforlife.org if you're looking at buying or selling a house anywhere in the English-speaking world, basically. The link for that is underneath. That's realestateforlife.org, and you can work with somebody who will help you sell your house or buy a house who has the same Catholic faith that you do, which makes business a lot easier. We're supposed to support each other as Catholics. And in this day and age where we're separated by geography, we can kind of have a localism in the sense of what we believe. And hopefully in the future, our communities will be Catholic again, or for the first time if they never were. But for now, this kind of helps us have that feeling of working with like-minded people that are in the most important community, which is the mystical body of Christ. All right, I'm going to answer that question, but it's going to be behind a paywall. So click the link underneath if you're listening as a free preview, and I will see you on the other side.